I am certainly past my high school days, but during high school, college, and even still, I love theater. Acting was truly my greatest passion. I was always an actor myself, though I occasionally dipped my toes into other areas of theater when needed, including one time in particular when I directed a play for my Theater 2 class. In high school theater classes, you have a wide variety of talent and interest. You, of course, have people who use it as easy credits, a class just to ignore, but you also have people who have a genuine love for the craft, whether they even realize it yet themselves or not. There was a mix of these in the play that I directed, but even those who weren't passionate about theater were still pretty good at acting during our rehearsals. I was decent at directing, and they were really good at taking what I gave them and building on it. So I was really looking forward to the day of the performance. When it finally did come, the confidence and charisma they had showcased during rehearsals all but vanished beneath the eyes of the audience, small though it may have been. That isn't to say they did terribly, but they didn't perform their lines or blocking with the same feeling they had during rehearsals. I understood though, and I still told them they did a good job, and they did. To put yourself out there as part of a class is no easy feat, because it's a much different thing to audition for a play because you really want to be a part of it versus being part of a play because you have to for class. It's something that I thought I had just taken for granted, and that was a shortcoming on me as a director. Stage fright is a real and understandable thing. It's not something that I suffer from, but I'm someone who loves acting and went out of his way to be in plays. It's entirely different. I took note of this experience and didn't think about it too deeply until after the high school year had come to an end, and I attended theater camp. Yes, theater camp. There were several different plays being done there, and I was picked to be juror number 3 in 12 Angry Men. That was the role of the main antagonist, something I got casted as often. Not that I'm complaining. The 2 weeks of theater camp were incredibly fun, and anyone out there who might be in high school and who enjoys theater, if you can, I'd really recommend going. It's so fun. Everyone around me, both in my play and outside of it, for the most part, were just exuberant and passionate about acting and or theater as an art form. It was such a fun, chill, and positive environment. The day came for our performances, and I'm sure some of you have guessed where I'm going with this. Most of my fellow cast members, who were excellent during rehearsals, mostly lost their composure in front of the crowd. It was almost a surreal experience for me to see all of them looking a little terrified and reading their lines with so little emotion and no passion. Stage fright is a very real thing. It can come for anyone. That was the first year I had ever done theater camp, and prior to that, I had only done plays with theater people from my own high school. And most, if not all, the people I was used to working with were really good at keeping the energy from their rehearsals going into the actual performance. Theater camp was something you needed to pay to attend, and most, if not all, of my fellow cast members not only loved acting, but multiple of them had even attended the same theater camp in previous years. It surprised me at the time, and still for a while after, that they had felt enough stage fright to lose that energy from rehearsal. These stories lead me to the main topic of discussion for this video: stage fright and suspension of disbelief. What follows is mainly going to be the pontifications of a person whose education in theater is existent but maybe not terribly deep. Most of my experience with theater is practical, and while I know many terms as they relate to the act of theater, I may not know many technical definitions. That's all to say, if I say something improperly or misinterpret some things that gravely offends any theater scholars out there, maybe save the chair throwing until the end. Stage fright is something that I conceptually understand, but have never personally experienced during the performance of a rehearsed play. Now, I've certainly felt nervousness when failing at improv in front of a small group of my peers, but performing a rehearsed stage play? The audience could probably number in the billions, and I don't think it would affect my nerves at all. I genuinely enjoy performing for a large audience, and I've performed for audiences that number in the thousands in the past. This is all to say, stage fright isn't really something that I'd considered much in the past, but after these 2 performances, I've thought about it a lot. Why does stage fright occur? Well, obviously it's because of nervousness, to put it in the simplest terms. It's the reaction to stage fright that I want to focus on, though. In both of the experiences where I saw it firsthand, the reaction was to pretty much cut off emotions and energy and to recite your lines almost robotically. Now, obviously, this isn't a response that most people could control, and most people probably wouldn't even realize they're doing it. It's almost as though a person is trying to calm their nerves by seeming uninvested in the play they're performing. Like, maybe if they look too into it, they'll appear foolish, and by disassociating, they can kind of gain some rapport with the audience who may think that they look like an idiot up there. Now, this is very obviously me just overthinking things, but it does lead me to the idea of suspension of disbelief. When an audience member decides to go see a play, it's not like they actually think they're going to go see jurors decide the fate of a young man. They're not actually going to see Salem break down into chaos. They're not going to see whatever happens in Hamlet. I don't know, I've never actually read it. But they're probably also not going just to laugh at a bunch of losers acting like they're people they're not. At least most people probably aren't going for that reason. There's a sort of silently upheld agreement that the audience will suspend their disbelief for as far as the actors can keep that disbelief suspended. I mean, it's not like plays get to have special effects and film at convincing locations. Generally, they have a stage and whatever appropriate outfits they can afford. And the lower you go in the totem pole, the less convincing a stage can look. I remember in my high school performance of The Crucible, my Danforth throne was just a chair stacked up on some gray blocks. If you look at that on its own and you say, that's a judge's chair, people would laugh. But to see someone sitting up there convincingly talking down to every single other person on stage in a booming voice, at least according to my fellow cast members, that makes it seem a lot more convincing. That isn't just a chair on some blocks. It is a throne. And the person sitting up there has power. And it's the audience's perception that gives it that power, their willingness to suspend the disbelief. If I, as Danforth, sat up there and meekly performed my lines like a deer in the headlights, I would look like a well-dressed buffoon trying and failing to have stage presence. There's a very clear difference between hang them high over the town and hang them high over the town. It's been a while since I did that. That's a specific example, though. There's obviously a difference between a supporting character having stage fright and the main antagonist who's trying to be intimidating. Still, the ability to play your part as convincingly as possible can go a long way to giving the audience an enjoyable and perhaps memorable experience. It's easy to think of how you might look like an idiot, but from my perspective, you're already up there. It's about time to commit. If you're going to look like an idiot, look like the most spectacular idiot that they're going to be talking about after they leave the performance. You're in the company of fellow idiots anyway. You've already committed so much time to this, so why not give the audience a performance they'll remember? After all, isn't that why you chose to take the stage in the first place? To anyone who made it this far, thank you so much for watching, genuinely. I know it's a bit of a departure from my normal style of gaming-related content, and I don't know how much I'll deviate from the typical norm, but acting and theater are big passions of mine, as you might be able to tell. I'd like to maybe talk about them more in the future, but I guess we'll see. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like if you feel so inclined. All of you genuinely have a great day, and try to go do something productive with your life. It's not always easy, but it's important, and I'll try to do the same. I'll see y'all later. Have a good one.